All right, everyone. Welcome to Hoggin Out, a live stream. Our guest tonight is Jeff Galewood Jr. from JMG Reptile. We're going to play a song or two. Get your questions ready. We'll be live here soon. Spread the word.
Frequencies illuminating clouds. We televise the noise to all that we can reach. The broadcast preach the word of better times and peace. We ought to make the lies with images we fake. Machines to grant our every wish when all we do is take. To apathy we drink when dancing in the flames. A chance for us to celebrate, 'cause all we do is wait. Constructed to be served, so that which is destroyed is cheered on while it burns, with nothing left to lose, and seconds ticking fast, though time is running out. All we do is laugh and hide among the crowd, drowning in its noise, in envy of the beautiful facades of shallow grace. The best would try and fail, feel helpless at the task, but lead as if they rule in hell, when all we do is wait. Our fortunes running out, and our options running dry, with no one else to turn to. Still we sit and cry. We're dancing in the flames to the sounds of our demise, drinking to our empathy, 'cause all we do is wait. The king, the sacred crown,
That's funny.
the chalice and the mace, rule over
Oh, I see myself now.
whose bounty goes to waste, a power that corrupts, regaling this as fate. The waters rising to our necks, and all we do is wait.
All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome to Hoggin Out here, another live stream. It's been a while since we had a live stream. Jeff Galewood, how you doing? Relaxing a little bit from today?
Doing well. Yeah,
So-
I was at an expo all day, so I kind of want to lay down.
So you're at what, Phoenix, you said?
Yeah, I'm in Phoenix right now.
So Jeff's chilling in his bed, live stream. We got a lot of questions already, Jeff, but we'll get to those soon.
Good.
So the one question I want to, or the one topic I want to start off with is the shedding process, right? So we talked about this, I think, a week or two ago. Now, when it comes to babies, the first thing I hear from my customers is like, my baby hasn't shed yet. It's been like a month or two, and they always say, he didn't shed yet, or she didn't shed yet. So what's the issue with that? Is it just time, or is it how much they eat? What is it when it comes to babies? Babies in particular, because then we're going to move to pre-lay and ovulation and all that.
There's a lot of factors. For one, the thing is, most of these people who are asking this question are probably used to owning other species that shed more frequently than a hognose. That's what it really is. Because I've had baby hognose, like obviously when they hatch, they shed within hours to like a day, max like 2 days typically when they hatch out. Generally, they're shedding out less than 24 hours when a baby hatches. And so anyway, see other colubrids, most people wait until they shed to start feeding them. And that's kind of like the general rule of thumb for like a lot of Lamprepeltis people. So your king, your milk people, your Pituophis, your bulls, gophers and pines, and then corn snakes and rat snakes too. But hognoses shed pretty much immediately after hatching. And I've had hognoses eat 2 days after hatching. Generally, though, you want to wait more like 5, 7, 8, 9, 10 days. Get their metabolic rate to burn off some of that residual yolk sac that they've hung on to, and let their appetite kick in a bit. But anyway, so in a hognose, they don't shed as often as other colubrids, so you can be feeding them sometimes. Like I've had hognose that start out as good feeders, and they're all a little different. Like I've had some that go into shed 2 or 3 months after hatching. For the first growth shed, but I've had some go like 4+ months before. So people are used to snakes shedding more often, and they think there might be something wrong with their snake just because they haven't shed. And it could be predicated to maybe they're not feeding it as much, so then it's a slower growth, and then you might even see longer delay between its next shed.
Yeah, that's what I hear all the time. Is like I'll sell a snake and or a baby, and like they'll hit me like a month later, like my baby hasn't shed yet. Is that a problem? I'm like, no, it's not really a problem. I'm like you said, depends, how often you feed them, this and that, and females tend to shed more often than males, babies, right? Or no?
Well, females, since they do get larger than males,
Yes.
they have a higher metabolic rate. Especially as the growth is progressing more, maybe you get a few more sheds out of females versus your males. But generally, when you're raising them up initially as babies and they're all feeding on the same schedule, their shed cycles should be pretty in sync.
It's usually around subadult. Usually around subadult, females will shed a little bit more.
Yeah, you might see a little more disparity, and that could also be the way people feed them. People are feeding their female hognose more, giving them bigger meals, and trying to get them to grow faster. There could be. Yeah, you'd have to actually run a linear experiment on them. You'd have to have clutch mates across the board, and you'd have to feed them equal weight ratio of prey in relation to the size of the snake, percentage-wise, get as close as possible, and then measure to see if there is a disparity between your shed cycles. I'd imagine you would see one as they get a little older, but actually I don't pay much attention to that. It's actually an interesting question. But yeah, a lot of that's predicated on people they slam their females, but don't slam their males as much.
Yeah, it's weird. I tell people all the time, it's like, well, my male's 160 grams and it's not even 2 years yet. I'm like, slow down.
That's a big male.
Yeah.
You said male?
Female. No, female.
Yeah, female. Okay. Yeah, that's still big for a female.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's like,
but that's good size.
Like you said, people try to feed. Like I tell people, babies up to 20 grams, 28 grams, feed them, 5 to 7 days. And then after that, 7 to 10 days, you want a healthy, because in the wild, they don't feed that quite that often, right? So
no, they're feeding nowhere near as frequently in the wild as we're feeding them in captivity. Maybe there's some of those months in the wild where there's a lot of prey available, and they might be eating every 3, 4, 5 days. But that's only going to last so long.
Correct.
And then there's going to be spells where they can't find prey as much, and so they have this infrequent diet. And it's all based on climate, availability, and those factors. And so I'll even tell people, I was like, dude, I want to have my hognose on a feeding schedule. I'm like, there really is no such thing as a feeding schedule. We just kind of make this up. I think it's almost healthier for hognose, based on my experience and seeing their growth rates and everything, to sometimes let them fast. Like feed them every 4 or 5 days when they're younger, but then do every 7 days. Sometimes maybe miss 8, 9, 10 days, then go back to feeding. Let them burn off some of those excess calories. Let their metabolic rate drop a bit, because that naturally happens. Then let it rise again. Too many people are keeping their hognose at high temps, or what's supposed to be like comfortable, temps for them constantly. And then we're feeding them constantly. So you're always having just these elevated metabolic rates that are just kind of like going down a little bit, going up, 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 and they're not really going down much. Versus in a wild, they have up, up, up. They have a big slowdown, ups, slowdowns, and they're a lot more erratic. And that's giving them, I think, just a healthier overall experience, because, that's the way they evolved naturally around this, diet. And the ones you find in the wild, like certain species of snakes you'll find in the wild, they're kind of slim. Like I've seen people find Brazilian rainbow bows in the wild. Yeah, if you put that, is there some of these Brazilian rainbows you found in the wild, like if you took them and put them out on your table as captive borns, and like, this is the way they look, you get like canceled, because it's like you're abusing that snake. But I found a decent amount of hognose in the wild, and you can go on iNaturalist and watch other videos of people finding. Generally, the hognose look pretty good in the wild. Like
they do.
Most of them are. Yeah, look pretty chunky, well fed, and that's like kind of the body structure and weight you should aim for your captives. Maybe your captives are a little bigger, but there is this kind of excessive feeding, and as young ones, it's not that big of a problem because their metabolic rate's high and they just kind of deal with it and grow fast. And you can really feed your young ones pretty frequently, babies, juveniles, and even small subadults with no negative repercussions. The problem is when you get them to adult size and you keep nailing them with food, those negative effects will start to compound the longer you do it.
Yeah, I got a question from John. John from J&J Herpin Adventures, my buddy, my best friend.
Yeah.
Can too much of the same thing stunt growth?
Too much of the same thing. It's a generalized question. It's an interesting one. I'd say, if you're feeding them, here's one thing. There was a study that looked at captive raised mice, and a lot of the captive raised mice that were being fed for bred and raised for feeders were low in D3, and they had a few other nutrient deficiencies. So that's why supplementation is always good. I always supplement my hogs, babies, adults. Now, other ways to stunt their growth would be hognose are really good and adapted and evolved to fast for really long periods of time. So the things that are really going to cause stunted growth are going to be maybe a long-term bacterial infection that goes unnoticed. That's kind of the snake's able to live with it, but it's impeding its health. Too much of a really bad diet, but I feel like most of feeder rodents are healthy enough, and if you dust them, that's not really going to create that problem. So I'd say most stunts, it's kind of hard to stunt the growth of a hognose. I'd say pre-existing congenital issues or a bacterial issue long term can cause that. That's going to be really about it. Maybe a really small enclosure and just really poorly kept. But at that point, we're just talking about a neglected snake. But too much of the same. I do varying diets with hognose. Other good things to feed them is quail eggs for adults. And if you want to feed them just eggs in general, just hard-boiled eggs and cut the eggs up into chunks. You could do the Reptiling stuff.
Yeah, I know people do the quail eggs. I see people do quail eggs.
Yeah, quail eggs. Yeah, quail eggs are pretty fun, especially your adult females. Sometimes they have I'd go with the button quail eggs. They have a little easier time swallowing them. And what I do is I soak those in vinegar water first to kill if there's any possible salmonella outside. Yeah, exactly. Sterilize and rinse them off with water, and then I give them to them. And sometimes I'll even partially I don't want to crack them. You crack an egg, but you don't bust the membrane.
You just tap it.
Yeah, I try to do that with the quail eggs, so then it's they can get some grip on it. I actually want to do an ASMR with a female hognose eating quail eggs, so you can hear her rear fang scratching against the quail egg.
Yeah.
Because they naturally eat a lot of eggs in the wild, and you can feed them chicks too. You can feed them quail chicks; those are really good for them. So if you want to vary your diet, do mice, quail chicks, maybe some cooked frog leg meat, chunks of hard-boiled eggs. Dust your prey. It's a lot of fun. It's pretty cool to watch your hognose eat this stuff because a lot of other snakes can't eat this crazy stuff, and it's actually really healthy for them. And some people do silver sides and stuff, but Like the silver side, that's actually I talked to Susie Moon and Trinity about it. And they brought up this one thing, and it's a good one to bring up because I've heard about it too. Like most of the silver sides, it's just like a generalized term, and like some of them, the silver sides are like they can be smelt, they can be like sometimes even do like I guess they pass off even sardines as silver side. It's just like kind of like a broad term used for a few different fish species, but some of those small fish can they contain thiaminase, and the one true silver side doesn't. But if you can feed your snake, fish here and there, and a little bit of thiaminase ain't going to hurt them. You just don't want to feed them fish constantly all the time that are high in thiaminase.
Yeah, I see. I see people on Instagram just feed their hognose a little piece of salmon once in a while, it's fine. Right?
Yeah, that's fine. Salmon, I don't even think even has thiaminase in it, and if it does, it's probably real low. Yeah, you can feed them salmon. Yeah, that's healthy for them. Give them like some fresh sockeye salmon, like little strips of that if you want. I don't think that's like the best one, but I think it's like a pretty good prey to vary in there. Like I'm not a good one for a staple diet, of course. Like I would never say just feed your hognose salmon. I'm like, that's probably not a good idea. It's probably going to suck long term. Yeah, it's going to have health issues. But if you just varied in there, that's fine. That's
not only that, when you turn them off of feeding on frozen thawed mice, you know what I mean?
Sometimes. So once if we're talking about bigger hognose, I have bigger hognose. I'll feed them all kinds of weird stuff, and they always go back to mice typically.
Yeah. We're gonna get onto I got some more questions about the shedding, but
cool.
Since we were just talking about quail eggs, Michael Underwood just stated any issues with the quail eggs from the Chinese grocery. I don't know if you want.
I don't know where these fucking quail eggs are coming from. Well, here's the thing. They probably are coming from China. I heard actually we get a lot of chicken eggs even from China. So you go to your grocery store. Now, if you're lucky, like I'm semi-lucky because I live in an area where you can kind of like get them. They're kind of tough now though. But there's a lot of places around me. Yeah, local free-range eggs. And these are really healthy. And if you even eat the eggs, they're like, they're a lot stronger and better tasting.
Oh, God,
yeah. Because these birds are free foraging. And the nutrition in those eggs are going to be substantially better. You can also get happy eggs, and they feed those chickens a lot more a better diet, and they're really heavy with spirulina, I guess. And spirulina is extremely healthy. The only other, because that's algae, and it's like super dense with all kinds of nutrients. It has like pretty much every nutrition. It has copper. It has, vitamin B, A, E, K. It has calcium.
Protein, calcium, all that shit, yeah.
Yeah, it has amino acids. Like, chlorella is, like, similar, but it's a freshwater, and it actually is way higher. It just lacks copper. That's the only thing that spirulina has that chlorella doesn't have. But anyway, they'll load them, essentially, these chickens with that, and those egg yolks are a lot more orange because they're more nutrient dense. But I still think the free-range chicken eggs are the best. And hard boil them, cut them up, and that's ultra healthy for them.
I'm gonna start trying that actually, since you just said that. On the topic of shedding, we're still on that. Brumation. Okay, so I had a conversation with you a few weeks ago where I said, Syl, my one Arctic Superconda, she came out of brumation. She was zombied out, and as she was going through her shed, she was laying all those slugs, 7 or 9. 7 to 9. I think it was like 9 total slugs. And they were all over. She was laying them throughout 3 or 4 days. And then a day after she had her shed, and it was a shitty shed. I had to put her in fucking water, soak her. Then the shed came off pretty easily when I rubbed it off of her. But and then I thought she was done for the year. Super skinny. She was back to her normal weight, 240 grams. And then all of a sudden, last month, she started growing a little bit, especially in the last week and a half. So she started growing a little bit. I'm like, oh shit, she picked up 10, 15 grams. And then she started to blow out again last week. So I was like, oh shit, she's going through maybe an ovulation shed now, maybe because it was like a month prior that she had the first shed out of brumation. So I'm like, fuck. So I paired her and she locked up when she was just starting to go through a shed. Great. Awesome. Got the lock up. And she shed out 2 days ago. And I think it's an ovulation shed because now she picked up a total from 240. Now she's like almost 280. So I said to you, I think she's done for the year. And you're like, no, it could have been from last year, this and that. I was like, I don't know, Jeff. But you end up being right, I think, because now she picked up a total of 30 grams in the last week and a half. And I think it's an ovulation shed. And I got her parent right now as we speak. So what's your thoughts on that? Because you get a hog. But okay, now I got to add to this. Hold on. So I bring out the other female at the same time. She had an ovulation shed. She was big. She locked. 2 days after she shed out, it was definitely an ovulation shed because, of course, she's 180 grams up right now. She's ready to lay freaking a ton of eggs right now. Today she's due 9 days. I don't think she's going to shed until tomorrow or lay eggs till tomorrow morning. But it just shows you the variable when you bring them out of brumation. They're both shedding.
Yeah.
One is laying slugs right away, and the other one is going through an ovulation shed. And you're like, yeah, I hit the ovulation. Perfect. Lock right away within an hour as I introduced them out. And so what's your thoughts on that? When they're coming out of brumation, they're shedding. The one was 7 slugs. The other one, of course, is going to lay 20-plus fertile eggs. And it's so weird when you see that, right? You see the two coming out. You think they're both going maybe through an ovulation. The one's not. The other one is. So,
well,
do you see that often?
Out a lot of information. The one thing is that the 7 slugger.
Yeah.
When did that one shed out from like a time out of brumation? Like how many weeks out of brumation was it when it shed out?
A week. About
It's a week.
About 10 days. She shed it fully.
So she shed out 10 days out of brumation, then she slugged out.
She was slugging out through the shedding process.
Through the shape. Okay. Yeah, I remember talking about that. Okay, so here's the thing that happened with that one. For that short time period, she was already developing egg follicles and had probably ovulated as you're putting her into brumation. And that's something that can happen sometimes. I've had hognose because the thing is, we're feeding them a really nice nutrient-dense, diet.
Well, let me add to this real quick. I don't mean to cut you off. Let me add this real quick. I added them to brumation a month later than the year previously.
Yes.
So I want to add
that. You that.
I want to add
that. Yeah, because that's one fact. Because here's I'll give you an example. This is like how you learn. You're learning. you do
I am.
something.
Trust me, bro.
How's this female slugging out? It's like
5 years and I'm still learning.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I like. Because let's say I bred my females in April, and then the next year, it's like, or the next breeding season upcoming, I'm like a little late. I'm working on stuff. I got babies I want to take care of, so I'm going to put in my hoggos and brumation a little later. The one thing I'll start doing is I start palpating them, because if I know I'm going to be a month or 2 or 3 months late to brumation, there's a good chance. And you got to remember too, fall into temperature change, even let's say through fall, even into winter.
Yeah,
we're getting a different type of. We're getting an inverse of spring.
Yes. And
that inverse of spring is hitting them in our captive setups, and they're also getting a nutrient-rich diet. So sometimes that can, prompt them to develop egg follicles because their body's experiencing a temperature change. Even though you might be keeping temperatures the same, that ambient temperature is going to fluctuate a little bit. Your furnace might be kicking on, but you're going to have a difference in humidity too. There's going to be a photo period outside. They're a little in tune to that natural cycle. And I'll give you the one time I was getting these females ready for cool down, and they were kind of young ones. They were right around almost 2 years old. So I was like, I'm going to breed some of these, but by the time I bring them out and breed them, they're going to be a little over almost 2.5. And as I was getting them ready, I was hitting them with more food, and then also the temperature was changing because it was November. And 7 of these things developed egg follicles and then ovulated as I'm trying to get them ready. So you have this inverse of the temperature fluctuations, and you have nutritional intake still going on. Now there is ways to mitigate that, and so if you're going to do a later brumation, for one, palpate them, see if they're developed. You could feel those follicles.
Yeah, you can.
They come on faster. Yeah, or do this low temps. If you keep them low, I keep them upper 70s with no heat as I'm getting them ready, and they can still eat meals and digest meals. These adults can do it. The babies don't.
Yeah, I do that for a week. Before I put them in brumation, it's always mid 70s for at least.
You can do it for months. You can do it for months, though.
Well, I did my one female. My one female I did this year. I delayed her, and I kept her at room temperature 73 to 75 for a month and a half. Before I even put her in.
Yeah, exactly. And so a lot of times they're not going to want to develop egg follicles at those temps at this lower metabolic rate.
Yep.
Yeah, and so that's what happened. So one female came out. She already had ovulated, and basically then her metabolic rate went back up. You probably have a weird shed because she brumated with egg follicles, or she had already ovulated.
And it probably delayed her. It probably delayed her shed, right?
It changed her natural cycle. So she's going into shed. Yeah, and so you're getting this really wonky result because of that.
Yes.
And then the other one is coming out of brumation, and you have
boom,
a natural cycle for
perfect.
her. And
it was perfect. Yeah.
she has an egg follicle shed cycle. You breed her, and everything goes as planned. And then the other one's kind of like, what the hell's happening?
In limbo, you're like, what the fuck's going on here? Like,
yeah, exactly. So now you know.
But yeah, it's so weird because like a month, 3 weeks, month after that, she just started blowing up a little bit, and then she blew it out again, like I said. And she just shed out like 3 days ago, and she's going for another lock. And I locked her a week prior.
It looks like you got the second one on her. So it looks like you're gonna get the second clutch.
So it's gonna be a second clutch. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too. I don't think she's gonna double clutch. Probably. That's why I was thinking, like, people always say, well, I only get one clutch out of my girl this year, and she's normally 2 clutches. So I'm thinking to myself, well, it could be the process of maybe when they're, like you said, like it's delayed inside of brumation where, they absorb their egg follicles or they shoot out slugs like she did. And that's why I think some people may only get one clutch out of a female year, right? You would think, or no? Could that be a reason? Is that maybe a reason, I should say?
Well, I'd say very, very rare.
Okay.
That's an oddball scenario. I'd say the main reason females aren't double clutching for people would be nutritional intake, temperature they're keeping them at, and it could just be the individual female. Majority of your females should double clutch. But like I found, there's ways to get your females not to double clutch. If they're not feeding them is like frequently, and not feeding them that much will limit their chances of developing a second clutch, and then also lower temps. Like if I keep my adult female hogs, like I had some in my quarantine section the past couple of years. This is an example, and I've done this before, even in my main section, where I would breed hognose in large totes, but I'd keep them essentially just at room temp, and the sun would come in the room, warm it up a bit. I don't have any heat running on them, and I'd breed them in like the high 70s. I'd feed them in the high 70s, and they would, just like eat like once a week. And when I'm keeping them at this lower temp, where they have a slower metabolic rate, they take a little longer to lay their eggs because the gestation is going to be longer because they're at a lower temp. And that's how ectothermic species metabolize is based on temperature. So lower temps, lower metabolism. So even if they're at appropriate warm temps, if it's a little lower, it can be slower for them. So in this case, it's one of those. It's like high 70s, and these females would take a little longer to lay their eggs, but they're like never double clutch. So,
yeah, I noticed that. Well, so far in the last 3-4 years now, all my females double clutch every year, and usually the thing I've noticed in the last 2 years, which I've been doing, is as soon as they lay their first clutch, I'll feed them right after that, of course, and then I'll continue the feeding cycle of feeding them twice a week.
Yeah, you just want to keep slamming them. And the thing is, the second,
I'll pair them. I always pair a week after, too, and they lock right away. After a week of laying their first clutch, I'll pair them again within a week or that week after. And they always lock up. And last year, it worked perfect. I went with that type of situation, and it worked perfect. And it was all fertile eggs out of all my females last year. So I felt like, hey, listen, feed them up twice a week, pair them again after a week. They lock up, and it worked perfect for the second clutch. No slugs last year out of the second clutches, which was good.
That's good fertility.
Yeah, so it worked very well. So let's get to the questions. Man, we got a shitload. Let's get to this. All right. What should the humidity be inside the container that the hognose eggs are in? I see a lot of breeders that have a small rainstorm going on. Adjust a little.
Mm-hmm.
Condensation on the top and the sides. See, yeah, I'm like, for me, I keep it damp. I don't keep it moist when they're laying the eggs. I mean, like, even with my egg tubs, I keep it damp. I don't keep it, I actually, if there's condensation on the top of the egg tub or the pre-lay box or the lay box, I'll wipe the lid off, and that's fine. And they don't dimple. They don't do anything. I'm like, the eggs can sit in there for 6-7 hours, and they don't dimple for me, at least. So, but just keep it moist, damp. Don't let it be dry. I'm like, I'll actually take the female out on day number 5 or 6. I'll take her out like I did autumn. I'll put in there, and I'll just put some water in there, and I'll squeeze it, do the squeeze test, get all the water out, and just keep it nice and moist, nice and damp, and that's it, man. And it works very well for me. Jeff?
I'm sending one message here real quick because my mom's checking hognose eggs while I'm gone. I'm making sure she's doing that. She's supposed to be, but I was like, gotta make sure because I got like 5 or 7 that are gonna lay while I'm gone.
Oh shit!
All right, I don't actually take humidity readings. I incubate my eggs right on my shelf in my snake room. I use those Ziploc Tupperware containers.
Yep.
I put 2 little air holes or 1 little air hole. Doesn't really matter. You can do 1 or 2. Well, like usually I do 1 on each side. They're a little narrower than the diameter of a toothpick. The hole.
It's exactly what I do.
Yeah, it's probably about half the diameter of a toothpick.
1/16 drill bit I use. Yeah, 1/16 drill bit I use.
Yeah, something really small. You don't need a ton of airflow. And then if you're worried about the condensation building up and even dropping onto eggs, what I do is I use coco mixed with like a little bit of sand. Sometimes just coco. You can even throw in a little bit of sphagnum moss, but just cover the eggs a little bit. So if any water drips, it's hitting the soil, and that's and then when you bury the eggs too, that's actually acting as a little insulation barrier. So if there's any temperature fluctuations, it's not going to hit that egg directly.
Correct.
Because the egg is protected by that soil, and it's going to protect it from water dripping directly onto it. I don't take humidity readings. I just make the soil like I would probably like a potting mix. It's like if you went down into the earth like 4 or 5 inches, it's about that moist. If you squeeze it and there's water coming out, even a little bit, it's like way too wet. You want to have like a nice, loose, moist, loamy feel. It doesn't feel wet, just like it's like nice, like damp soil. I bury the eggs, 2 little air holes, little airflow, and sometimes I get a little bit of condensation, but I just put them on my shelf in the upper 70s, low 80s in my snake room. I don't even use incubators. My snake room's the incubator, and I just wait for them to hatch, and that's it. Some people, I understand they want to make sure that they don't want to, do something wrong, but hognose eggs are actually pretty easy to hatch.
Yes.
But some people, start to freak out. They're like, oh, there's water here, or I'm doing pear light. It's like I just keep things simple. That's what I do. It's like I have no incubator. A little bit of temperature fluctuation's fine. You bury the eggs. That protects severe temperature changes if you are worried about that. The egg is now buried in the soil, so it's going to take a lot longer for that temperature to change for that egg. And in the wild where they're laid, it's warm during the day and they have temp drops at night. So, humidity, I'm sure mine's in the 90% range, but I don't even friggin' know. It's not that I don't care really. I guess it'd be okay to know, but it won't help me. So I just don't know because I know it won't help because I set them up and they're good.
Yeah, same here. People put those meters in there for humidity and temp. I don't even do that. Mine's 81.
Hygrometers too are tough. They're not that accurate.
They're not accurate
they gotta
because
be pretty expensive. The really cheap ones are off by a little bit.
Way off. Yes, they are. So, like I said to you, on the side of the tubs, I put 1/16 drill bit. Boom, 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 done. I do the squeeze test, get all the water out of it, put it in there, divots. I cover the eggs 75 to 85%. Set it and forget it, man. That's it. Put them in the incubator, you're fine. That's how I do it.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about humidity. If you at the in your incubator, if you want to put a little water in there every 4 weeks, whatever, put a little water. It'll help them, but it's not going to really do that much. It's not going to make a big difference.
Hognose eggs can take a little dryness too. If the soil's just lightly moist, it's a little on the dry side.
Yeah.
That's not going to mess up hognose eggs. If they start to dimple or whatever, and you think they're getting you
wet
can add a little bit of water then.
Wet paper towel. Put them on top. That's all.
Yeah, but the thing is, you can over wet your hognose eggs and waterlog them and kill them that way.
Yes.
Drying them out is pretty hard unless you have a bunch of air holes and the soil's dry, and then and you have an airflow in your incubator and the eggs are exposed. Then yeah, you could dry them out. But if you just have little air holes in there, and that's one thing I like the little air holes for, because you don't want them getting a ton of air where it can just dry them out. They're not supposed to have tons of air circulation. They're a little bit's okay. They're burying them in the ground, and there's a couple inches of dirt on them. There's not direct oxygen getting into them directly that much.
Yeah, and a little condensation on the top of your clear lid if you're using those plastic tubs. It's fine. A little condensation is not going to hurt it.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's no big deal. So I'm if
I'm going to take a piss. I'll be right back.
Yeah, you can do that because I'm going to talk about the tubs. So yeah, what I do, like I said, 75 to 80%. They put me on. Hey, how you doing? I'm here. I'm widescreen. So yeah, 2 little 1/16 holes in the side, and I'll actually put 2 in the front and back too as well. So I have 4 little tiny 1/16 holes, maybe even 1/32. I think the drill bit is. I think the drill bit's 1/32. I don't know. It's very small, guys. Jeff said, a little toothpick hole in the side. That's all. One on each side, just a little airflow. That's fine. When your incubator's on, it gets some flow going on. The flow gets inside the tub. You don't need much oxygen for them to hatch. The bigger the holes, of course, you're going to lose some humidity in there, some moisture, and it might dry out the substrate. But like I said, I put 2 little holes, maybe 4 total. That's it, 4 little holes. That's all you need. If there's some condensation over the next few weeks, don't worry about it. It's fine. I bury the eggs. Like I still told Jeff, 75 to 85%, which I got a female right now, probably laying eggs right now. She's definitely going to lay by tomorrow morning, and it's autumn. She's going to lay her 20 fertile overnight, and she usually lays on day number 9 every year. Double clutch, second clutch, always day number 9 she lays for the last 3 years. So today's day number 9, and she's positioned right now to lay those eggs. So I'm thinking she's either laying right now. I haven't checked her in the last few hours. She's positioned, and she looks good. So probably in the morning I'll see eggs from her. But yeah, you don't need too much, man. You don't need too much for the eggs. They're pretty easy to hatch out. So, all right, Jeff. Next question here: have you noticed a statistically significant difference in fertility when the male is brumated versus not brumated? It's a good question, actually.
Dad, who asked that?
Hogalicious.
Okay, very good question. Not really. You don't really need to brumate your males that long. I do a short brumation. I do like to get that metabolic rate drop with that metabolic rise, and then introducing multiple males. Doing things to make their testosterone levels go up. It does initiate. Like I think brumating can help them, but it's really not that necessary.
Yeah.
But no, I've bred males without brumating and stuff.
Yeah, my first year breeding, my mouth didn't even brumate, and
no, I think shit. I've seen people buy males from me. Yeah, I'm like it hasn't. I was like it hasn't brumated, and they buy it and they just throw it right with their females and breeds and lay eggs. I do like to brumate them. Is it necessary? Is it like giving a drastic difference? Nah, not really.
No.
But I will say it does give them a rest and everything. And there's things I do to actually get males to breed more females, and I do involve some short-term brumations, and I call it flash brumating. I only do it for males, and it works pretty good. And so my mom says, I got a question for my mom.
Okay, good.
It's a comment. It's not even a question. I had 4 snakes laid eggs. One laid 9, one laid 10, and one laid 17. And the other one laid... Yeah. They have first year breeder. 17 eggs is a lot.
17's big, yeah.
Yeah, those females too. The biggest one's like 200 grams. So they're none of them are big. These are mostly 170, 180 gram females.
Holy shit! Question: Michael Underwood. My eggs are currently on day 41. Anything in particular I need to watch out for as they get closer to their expected hatch date? Any particular signs they're about to start hatching? The one thing I noticed over the years is usually 2 to 3 days before they hatch, I've noticed they dimple a little bit, just a little bit.
Yeah,
that's one sign. Yeah, Jeff.
What I would do is get excited because it's getting close.
Yeah, as soon as you hit that day number 50, 51, 52, you're like, shit, where's the pip?
Yeah,
you always look for that first pip.
Right. Yeah, you just look for just pay attention. At this point, hognose eggs are still like even if if they're close to hatching and they start to dimple because it's let's say if they're dimpling because it's kind of dry in there.
Yeah.
I just let that naturally happen because there's still a lot of moisture in the egg. And anyway, yeah, so there's really nothing to look out for. Just make sure it's again, the only thing that I've ever seen people do is again, sometimes it's the helicoptering and the worrying. They're dimpling. They're dry. Let me add a bunch of water.
Oh,
do
God,
not
no.
do that.
No.
That's how you can kill. That's how you can kill them. I've seen people get them so wet, and then the egg gets expanded and gets bigger, and it's absorbing too much fluid. What happens is it cuts off the vascular system from transporting enough oxygen to the embryo, the snake that's developing, and it can essentially suffocate in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, just don't add water unless the egg's collapsing and the dirt is fucking powder. And it's this stuff could if you blew into it, it'd blow into your eyes. It's that fucking dry. Then yeah, add some water. But yeah, just don't overthink things. As long as the soil's semi-moist and you're you're in the finishing run. 41 days or pretty much a fully developed or almost. You still got another 10, 12 days depending on your temps.
Yeah, I helped somebody last year where their eggs, they came home from work and their eggs were pretty fucking dimpled. This was on Discord. And they showed me the picture. I was like, ooh. I was like, get a wet paper towel, squeeze it out not as much as you can, but keep it a little wet. But squeeze it out where we're just going to drip off the towel and lay it over your eggs. Let it sit there for 2-3 days and pick it up. So he picked it up. He said, oh my God. And they plumped up back to normal. And they were successful. They all hatched. And But dude, you had to see these eggs. They were like
Yeah,
freaking like
just make
30%
sure that
dimpled because it was too dry when she was laying. It was too dry, and he put them in
Gotcha.
there. I was like, just squeeze out the paper towel, get paper towel, cover the whole entire tray with it. Give it like 2 or 3 days, and he lifted it off. He took a picture. He sent it to me. He's like, "Oh my god, they blew right back up, perfect," and they all hatched. So I was like, "That's
good." Yeah, just make
that
sure,
was
like you
perfect.
said, that the paper towel isn't too wet.
Too wet,
So Joe's
yes.
waterboarding technique, yeah, that can work. Just make sure it's not too wet.
Yeah, you don't want it too wet. Just squeeze it all out and just lay it over top.
Yeah, because like some people are, oh, it's
and you
dry,
might have to
let me
repeat
make it
that.
really wet.
No.
Yeah, you don't want, because the one thing is you just want it moist, because again, the eggs do have to transfer oxygen. So
Correct.
if there's too much of a water barrier, it's doing that again where the oxygen can't get through because you actually are waterboarding the egg. So if you do the paper towels, you want to make sure that it's like lightly damp.
Yeah, and you don't want to push it down on the egg. Just lay it on top and let it go.
Like little bit of
Don't push
air
it.
in there.
Yeah.
Imagine
don't.
like they have to breathe still.
Correct. Yeah, just lay it on top, very easy, and just boom, and you're done. Let it there for 2-3 days, peel it back up, and check it out. And he did it, man. They blew right the fuck up, and they all hatched. I was like, shit, that's pretty sweet. So that's good stuff. Stream working. Yes, stream was working. How many hognoses do you think is a good amount to start with for someone who wants to who wants to get into breeding? I am like, it's really personal preference. 4, 6. I'm like, it depends how much time you have, right? So it's about time, right?
300.
Yeah, like you, 300. How many?
300.
How many do you pair a year, dude? Like 200?
Yeah, a little more than that. I give
Christ,
around like 250 to 300.
You do
sometimes.
what, 1,000
I got
eggs?
so many projects. Yeah, like over that, but yeah, I would say whatever. Yeah, again, whatever you're comfortable with. I'd say ease into it. You know, I see a lot of people if they really go ham and they're really having fun. I could see starting out with like 20 pairs. You know, if you want to. You know, I probably wouldn't do too much past that, especially if you're planning to breed. You know, again, like you said, it's personal preference. You know, the one thing is you really don't want to produce like a few hundred babies your first year unless you've already experienced selling reptiles to a degree, or if you have some really good friends that might be able to help guide you and stuff. You know, it is easier to sell reptiles nowadays, more so than ever. The community's pretty large. I've seen some people too, like go ham and they produce a lot. And you know they just wholesale them to a couple people that are looking for them, and you know that's an option. But you know you're not going to get as much money, and then also you want to make sure they're going to good homes and everything. So there's a lot of things to factor. But I'd say, and if you go ham, you don't have to breed. Let's say you get 20 pairs. Doesn't mean you have to breed all 20 pairs at the same time. You can give some a break. Letting a female too. This is going to sound like a little. Well, here's the one thing. Most people think like I have this female that's ready to breed. I have to breed it. I must breed it or I'm missing out.
No.
I have 10 females. They all have to breed. They must breed. Don't think about it like that. And the thing is, like, even if, let's say you cool them and you decide not to breed them and they develop egg follicles and they ovulate and they've never been bred and they slug out, slugging out is not bad for them at all. It's actually kind of healthy for first-year females. Now, a lot of times, like you said, like, you're like, oh, am I just sporadically laying them? Yeah, that's what they do a lot of times. But because the infertiles don't really have, like a time limit. Like there's not like a dinger where it's like a fertile egg where it's like, okay, the egg's matured, it must drop and be laid now. The slugs can retain in them for like a decent amount of time, but anytime I've let a female slug out her first year, they do very well the next season. So I actually have a female that's very important to breed, and she's like young and she looks really good. I might just let her slug out this year. So then next season I know she's probably going to do really, really well. Slugging out without being paired is actually pretty healthy for them. It primes their oviducts very well. It's a very good strategy I figured out accidentally, because it happened to me many times where I had females unintentionally slug out. And so I developed it, and I was like, it works. I've never heard of anybody else talk about it. I've never seen it, but it actually is 100% consistent where it primes their oviduct this next season. They breed very well. No slugging out, no very, very low infertility. The fertilities are generally extremely high, and I've never had one of those get egg bound yet that have done that, because you're naturally priming their oviduct. Versus these first year females that are having these big, large, very healthy clutches their first year, and it's sometimes a little too much for their bodies to handle, especially versus how they breed in the wild. And I presume most females in the wild are actually slugging out their first season.
Yeah.
Because they're so small and young and immature, and then the next season they're going to be probably a little more ready for it. Not saying it always happens, but I'm sure it does happen in the wild. And there's a reason why these ones that slug out do very good the next season.
And the thing about that too is, like in the wild, they don't even produce as many eggs as we do in captivity.
They
It's
don't.
not even
No. First year is like
close.
probably like 3,
6
4, 5
eggs.
eggs.
Yeah, most.
Yeah, that's a big one. I found an adult female in the wild. It probably wasn't even her first year. She had 5 big ass eggs in her. And yeah, I've heard of other people finding these small females, and they're like generally around like 4 eggs.
Yeah.
That's way easier. 'Cause that means there's like 2 eggs per oviduct. Very easy for their body to handle.
Yeah, well, I got a female right now. It's probably laying right now, if not tonight. She always lays on day number 9. Always. The last 2 years. Even on her
That's pretty
second
cool.
clutch. Always day number 9, and she produces the most. Always 40 eggs. Double clutching. Both
That's good.
40. She's like 190 grams over from her weight out of Brumation. And she's so big right now. I just checked on her like before we started, and she's in a position right now where she's done digging for 3-4 days now, like going at it. And now the last day, well, today, this morning, she's just laying there, dude, just positioning herself, looking for that right temperature to lay her eggs, dude. And she has her. I know she's laying right now. I can probably guarantee if I go in there right now, she probably has the eggs laying right now. Because she always day number 9, and probably overnight she's gonna lay them. So she's just in that position right now where she's not digging anymore, and she's just setting up and just getting her tail in a certain position. And it's just so awesome when you see that, man. Because you evaluate that every year, like how they react, how they're doing the day before, 2 days before, 3 days before. And I keep that in mind. So, all right.
No, that's a really good record keeping. Very good consistency.
Oh yeah,
too, on
100%.
that.
Yeah. I always record that shit. Do you feel like supplements is necessary for a healthy snake? Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. I'd say so. I mean, most people can benefit from the supplements. Like if we're going to anthropomorphize, but imagine like somebody that's healthy. Just because you're healthy doesn't mean that you can't, potentially benefit. Especially if you're going to be like for a snake breeding and laying eggs. But yeah, I mean, they have a varied diet in the wild, and these mice that were feeding them, like I said, like this one study, they took a bunch of different mice that were from breeding facilities, and they were like low in D3 and a few other some of the other nutritional level values they had were lower, but I know D3 was like the big one that they were low in. And so yeah, supplementation is really beneficial. And then the other things too, if they don't utilize it, they just pass it out in your year rates, so it's no big deal.
Yeah, I do calcium with D3. Joe, do you control their light cycles? Yes, I actually do, to be honest with you, when it comes to my heat lamps, for the females at least. Yeah, so summer, it'll be 12 to 13 hours. During out of Brumation, I'll put it at 10 hours. And I'll increase that to like 11 to 12 hours. Over a week or two, yeah. So I do increase their light cycles. Jeff, do you do? Well, you don't do it. You're all tubs, right?
Yeah, I have the natural light that comes in to my place, and so
Oh
I have
yeah,
some natural
so
light.
helps, yeah.
Photo period. And I'd say that definitely helps, especially for them producing egg follicles in the spring. If you're a reptile breeder in general, I'd say photo period helps to like pretty much every species, like get into a cycle and breed. While it might not be necessary during brumation and stuff like that. If you want to know a quick tip and secret that it's not one that I've talked about it many times, but sometimes it's like people don't hear it. But if you're going to make like a reptile room, I'd suggest as big as a window as you can get. Maybe like east facing window. Just get a lot of natural light in there. Maybe a couple windows, like one on the south side of the room, one on the east side. Depending where your room layout is, but even if it's not one of those like directions, just like a big window in general. So you let a lot of natural light in there. Like I have my one hognose room. It has windows from 2 different directions across the walls, and any room I have like that, if you have natural light coming in and the light comes in, it heats up your room. And those hogs are getting a lot of natural light. I call those rooms ovulation city, or the ovulation room, or the ovulatory, whatever you want to call it.
Ovulatory.
Yeah, dude, you don't even need to brumate your hognose. Like I had like my room in like my blue room is March, and we started like I was like the light cycle's getting a little longer, and we're getting some sunny days. I was like I started palpating females like crazy. I already had 2 developing follicles just because of that light cycle. I was like I gotta get some of these in fucking brumation. If I leave them there, I was like these things are all just gonna slug out. They're in the ovulatory. Yeah, that like a large like windows like that really helps with breeding snakes, especially hognose snakes. if you want to make sure your females all do it, kids think hognoses aren't the hardest to breed. Obviously, put a lot of effort or a decent amount of effort. You keep them healthy, and you do these cycles. You're going to do pretty well. And if you follow some of the guidelines, the one big thing is big mistake is people keep them way too warm out of brumation, and that's usually I'd say.
Oh my god, I'm 81, 83 out of brumation.
Yeah,
that's it. That's my top, bro. That's my top. Yeah, 83 top.
Put those lower temps. You don't want to get real hot, like 90 degrees, like
no,
cool down.
Absolutely
You're gonna mess stuff up.
Nah, that's what I've been doing the last 2 years. I noticed my first year doing this was like it was too hot, and I lowered to 81. Like right now, like I'm always 80 to 81 for the females lay eggs.
Good.
Always.
That's good.
And they love that temperature. I don't know why it is. It's 81, 82, bam, 9, 10, 11 days, boom. They love it. And they always lay where the heat lamp is in the morning. So I turn on that heat lamp, within an hour they're laying eggs. It's crazy.
I bet in the wild, I guarantee it, they lay late morning in the wild. I'm sure as soon as it starts warming up the earth, where they're buried, and they start feeling that heat in the morning. I get so many hognoses that lay in the early AM. It's very common. I get a lot of hognoses.
I think all my females ever have always, I think all my females, even double clutch, always 4 to 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. I don't know why. It's just weird.
Yeah,
and sometimes and I'll turn that heat lamp on, dude. Within an hour, dude, boom, they're laying eggs. It's just so cool.
Yeah,
it's weird.
That's cool.
Actually, time sometimes. Here's a good one, and it's pretty easy one, I guess. Couple more questions. How do you know if a shed is an ovulation or a prelay shed? I have one that is up 65 grams and had a shed 5 weeks out of brumation. Up 65 grams when? Out of brumation or now?
Yeah, so, maybe from out of brumation.
Out of brumation and having a shed. Well, I've had females 6 weeks, 7 weeks out of brumation have an ovulation shed and produce all fertile. So 65 grams up when though?
The one thing important to mention is like they don't always have this egg follicle shed, this ovulation shed that people are talking about. They don't all have it. Some people are, should I wait till they shed? I'm like, no, you'll miss a lot of your females. Do not wait for the shed. If
always
it happens,
pair after 1 week.
pair 1 to 2 weeks. Like
1 to 2 weeks after
come out of brumation.
Yeah, always.
Yeah. Start doing that, and if you get a lot, great. And I've had females too. Like let's say I'll give you an example. I bred this one female probably 2 weeks out of brumation, locked. Then a month later, there's nothing, and then she went into shed. So she had shed out. It's been like 5 weeks since her first. So I put the male in there again. Out of lock. That's one of those rare cases where I'll aim for a second lock, and that was her egg follicle shed. And the reason they go into these shed cycles is because in order to produce the egg follicles, there's a lot of cellular development, and so they're producing a lot of new cells. And in the process, their body a lot of times is just generating all these new cells. So they go through a shed cycle, kind of like how a snake gets an injury. A lot of times they go through a shed cycle. They got to develop new cells. They're developing new egg follicles. They're developing egg follicles, these new cells. So a lot of times they go into a shed cycle. They don't always do it. I'd say about almost half of them do it. But yeah, and they're always usually really receptive after a shed. So if you ever see your female shed, get a male in there.
Yeah, always. Like this year when I won, I said it came out of brumation shed. She shed. I fed her a day after, since she had a meal on her, so she wanted to eat the female. I paired male, and boom, within like an hour they locked. Like 1 day after the shed, ovulation shed, and that was 5 days at normal temperature. It's perfect. Like this year, one that's laying eggs right now, probably. Like perfect friggin' time, and it was just perfect all around for her, man. And she lays the most ever, always over 40 eggs, double clutch. Jeff is a legend. Jeff, you're a legend. Did you know that?
Thank you. I appreciate it.
This year, Jeff, would it be ideal to pair them before brumation to avoid missing ovulation? That's a good question, actually.
That's one. That one comes from like people seeing hognose pair up in the fall in the wild, and it's like this. The thing is, again, you are going to get like, let's say I hear spring peepers. They do start calling in March and April, and they're very active. Well, you start hearing some of them call in the fall time because again, it's an inverse of spring, and you're replicating a lot of those things. So, as hognose congregate for brumation, yeah, a lot of times the males then are courting the females. You're getting this, metabolic difference with the night or the temperatures getting lower. They're congregating more. And, I really wouldn't rely on a lock and then the female retaining the sperm through this, brumation and getting them, like, maybe let's say a following lock or just aiming for another lock. It's a lot of, I think it's more effort and, it may possibly pan out. But the thing is, like for me, and I think if you follow a lot of the guidelines of like doing these brumations, cycling them, then getting your males in there 1 to 2 weeks out of brumation, feeding them up. You know, if they don't lock, separating them, feeding them up, waiting another 4 or 5 days, putting them in together, and just keeping your hognose healthy, you're going to have a really good season. You know, pairing. I've never done the pairing in fall and then pairing again in the spring, and like I said, and just me breeding in the spring, I probably have some of the highest fertility levels. There's other people now that have, I'd say, on par fertility levels, but I'm getting like around 90%, and it's like it's going to be hard. I'm sure. So if you breed less hognose, let's say you breed 5 and you have like the best season, you could get like 100% because like now you have 5. If they all do really well, you have that capability versus breeding like a bunch of females like 50, 80 plus or whatever. But yeah, I think breeding in the fall is an interesting thing. I just think it's like not that necessary.
All right, I got my headphones back on.
Okay.
Here we go. This is a good question, actually. We got a couple more left. If you had an unbrumated female at 150 grams right now, would you let her ride until next season? I would say yes. Or brumate her sometime later in the season and try for a clutch near the end of the year? No.
We're already like almost into May, and time goes by so damn fast. I mean, it's like you only got like a few more months to wait to like I'd say just start brumating her like in October if you want to try to get it earlier.
Get it for in early fall, or early spring. I mean,
like start brumating like early mid fall, October, maybe November. Give her a little more time, then warm her up in like January or February, depending on when you cooled her, and just do that. I get a little more size on her.
Now my guideline is for females to breed is at least 195, and I do 26 to 28 months to breed, right? I would think, and of course males I like that range. I actually, you say 190. That's like actually like one of my favorite like sizes to breed a female. Yeah. My favorite size range to breed first time breeder females, let's say on an empty stomach out of brumation, or like let's say right before brumation because we're getting them ready, between 160 and 200. Gotcha. And there's like a little bit of wiggle room. I've had females that run around 150 grams, like breed great, but they're like 3-year-old females that are slow grown. But generally, if I had to pick like an absolutely favorite size, like in the middle, it'd be around that 180, maybe 190 gram range. I really like the 180 range. That's a great size, and obviously like 200, 210, that's good too. Yeah, 220, 240, I like.
Yeah, that's good. Once you start getting over 250, though, unless they're really slow grown and like at 3 years of age, it's like you start to get a little dicey because I've seen people like say 250 minimum. So then like old people too are like, oh, 250 is a good range. Well, I'm gonna get mine a little bigger. So then they have their females at like 300 or 350 to first breeding season, and you're gonna have an elevated, level of issues doing that. Now it's not gonna be a huge percentage, but you might have 5 or 10% more problems than if you were breeding them at a more closer appropriate size and a higher 100, like around 200 gram mark. Hognose in the wild, some of these females at 10 years old aren't even 250 grams. And then people are trying to get them that big in 2.5 years, at these, really high temps and this really elevated metabolic rate. Then they're laying their first clutches are these unnaturally large clutches. You're asking for more problems. Like obviously, most of the time it will go well, but when I'm breeding females at around 170, 180, 190 grams, the one time I bred like 70 females like that, and I had one with the most minor egg binding on its last egg, and that was it. Versus these other people that are breeding females first year to like 300, 350 grams. They're having more issues, but they might only see 2 or 3 severe egg-bound ones out of like 80, so they're like, oh, well, that's not bad. But, you can limit it a little more by just keeping them a little smaller, and that's to us smaller. In the wild, they'll breed at 120, 130 grams. Meanwhile, we look at a 160 and 170 gram female as too small, versus in the wild, a female that size will already be a veteran breeder.
But, Jeff, it's about the age of the female, not really much the size, right?
Yeah, that is true. There's a lot of that. There's the 2 elements. It's the size and the age, and really the body structure. So when I go to breed a female, I want her to have a wide anal plate, wide tail base, mature look, nice muscular body, and a big flat head. Not one of those like baby face ones where it looks like they're still growing.
Now, short tail or long tail doesn't matter with the female.
Length doesn't really matter, but generally I like the females with just like the more like typical shaped tail.
Yeah, my
like
two have like the
tail.
wide, like really thick, and it's real.
You want that
really
wide
quick.
tail. Yeah, you want that wide tail, like wide above the anal plate,
above the anal plate,
below it. And then now I've bred females. The smallest female I ever bred is like 115 grams. But she was like 3 years old and it had that really good body structure. And the funny thing is, I'm breeding these females that are like 140 grams and 150 grams, but they're like 3 years old and they have good body structure. Her fertility is always extremely high and they like never get egg binding. But people that I see with egg binding are usually these gigantic, massive females. But if you do breed real small females that are kind of powered, those will have issues too sometimes. So you gotta, you gotta meet in the middle.
And like I tell people about females because people buy females off me to breed them, and over the last 3 years, and I tell them when I give them, because I give them an information sheet. So when I sell, like I just sold a subadult female to if you guys name on Instagram, he just received it a couple days ago, and I put on there female. She's a subadult. She's 96 grams. And I put on there, feed her every 14 to 19 days. I'm like, don't feed them every week. Don't feed them, 2 weeks minimal feed them. Let them grow healthy. Let them gain their weight. She was 18 months old, 96 grams. Not too bad. Like, as soon as they hit like 50 grams or in their subadult status, dude, I switch them right away to 14 days, 14 and 20 days. I don't feed every fucking week. Everybody's like, oh, I got to feed my... I get people hit me. Oh, my baby didn't feed this week, which I do. Nothing. They don't want to feed.
Wait a few days.
They don't want to... Yeah, wait 3-4 days, I tell them, and try again. That's it. It's you don't have to feed your baby every week or your subadult every week. I'm like, as soon as they hit subadult status, as soon as my males hit 40 grams and my females hit 80, 90 grams, it's automatically 14 to 20 days. I'm like, I feed them once. That's it. That's all you got to do. They don't get that in the wild. You just want to raise them healthy. Right. You know what I mean? That's why all my females that are producing beautiful eggs, a lot of eggs, I raise them healthy. Just not overfeeding them, not getting them fat. Just feed them every 14 to 21 days. That's it. Sometimes I'll feed them every 2 weeks. The next time I feed them will be every 3 weeks. And they grow very healthy, very active. They look great. They produce great eggs. No issues getting them out. It's just a healthy way. That's how I do it. But
that's great for those like adult size hogs. What you just said. Yeah. All right, Joe. Let's do a few more questions because everybody wants to be down at the auction, so I gotta go there too. All right, I'm trying to do too many things at once.
No, we're exactly at an hour, which we were gonna do. So one more question. Let me pick a good one here.
Ask a few more.
Oh, we can do a few more. If attempting to pair one male to multiple females, how long you should wait after lock before trying the next pairing? Does the male need
5-7 days?
5-7 days. I was already say 5 to 7 days. That's what I do. So does the male need a meal and need some time to recover? Yes, like Jeff said, I do 5 to 7 days. I have one male right now. You're AAA actually. I brought off you, Jeff. I'll pair him. He locked with Autumn. He locked, and I waited 5 days, fed him that day. After he locked, fed him, he ate. And then 5 days after, he locked again with Sil. So, like
as soon as they lock, get them out of there and just get them food. Yeah,
give them food right away.
That same day.
Water.
Sometimes when they're done locking, an hour later, I'm feeding them.
Yeah, I feed them right away. As soon as I put them back in there,
feed them right away.
I leave them there, boom,
and if they don't want to eat, if they don't want to eat, just give them a break. Sometimes they don't want. Sometimes they're in such a breeding mode, but just give them make sure they're hydrated and wait 5-7 days if they don't eat, and then they'll rejuvenate enough, and you can pair them even if they haven't eaten. But generally, they want to eat, so just feed them immediately.
Yeah, I feed them within a couple hours, and they're fine. They love it. They're aggressive. Boom, let them sit in there, digest it, whatever. Wait 5-7 days, and pair again with another female. It works. All right, that's it, Jeff. That's all I got, brother. We're good. So, thank you very much, there, brother. Everybody. Get down, have a couple of drinks, have a couple shots wherever you're going.
I'm not doing that. But I got to do the show tomorrow. My stomach's fucking killing me. So I'll have some tea and water.
All right, dude. Take it easy, brother. Nice seeing you again and talking. And we do this twice a year. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, it was a good time, man. We had a good time. All right, guys. Smash that like button on your way out. Please hit it. And go visit Jeff on Instagram at JMG Reptile it is, right?
Yeah, JMG Reptiles. I had an S on there. My old account got banned, so that's where I'm at now.
Yeah, he got censored. He got
Is a hog
he got canceled.
Wagging her tail is a hormonal breeding response, and
you got canceled.
People started. Yeah, I got canceled over that. A lot of people are getting their accounts taken down. Tiki's Geckos, a few others lost theirs too at that point. He got his back, but big
That's
bearded dragon
insane,
person
dude.
got their account taken down at the same time. A bunch of people are mass reporting. It is PETA bullshit because PETA doesn't want you to own reptiles.
Oh, they fucked up. But Jeff's links down below, guys, in the comment section, in the description. His Instagram, go check him out, go follow him. And Jeff, nice talking to you once again, dude. I'll be in touch, brother. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks, bye, guys. See you later.
Later,
Bye.
homie. All right, guys. Thank you for coming out, man. Appreciate that, man. That was awesome. Nice, quick little stream. I told Jeff be only like about an hour long because I've been tired. Actually, I took a power nap, to be honest with you guys, before Jeff came on. I think I took a power nap from 6 to 8. Why is my mouse not working? I can't get over here. What's going on, bro? My mouse is all screwed up. Let me fix this. But yeah, thanks, guys. On your way out. There we go. I fixed it now. Now we're good. But yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks, Jeff and Joe. Lowtown Reptiles, thank you very much. Ethan, what's up, buddy? Good to see you. How many eggs are those smaller females laying, Jeff? Fuck. Sorry, Ethan. Oh, man. I just saw that. Good night. Thanks for the stream. Saldrax, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks for showing up. I appreciate it, guys. Much love to you guys. It was a pretty good stream, man. We got over 140 people in here. But I appreciate it. It was a good time. I got to do more of these, I think, guys. I got to bring other people on, I think. People like this kind of stuff. Prince, you're welcome. Take care. Michael, have a good evening. See you next time. Yes, I'm tired, man. I've been up since 4 o'clock. I've been watching my female all day and went to go visit mom and came back, and I was just getting really tired. I'm like, oh, man. So I talked to Jeff. I said, Jeff, what do you think? 6, 7 o'clock? He's like, nah, dude. Like 9 o'clock. I'm like, oh, man. I was like, all right, I get the promos out. I'll get the promos out. I'll take a little cat nap. And I took a little cat nap from 6 to 8, got up. Good to go. And got the stream all set up, and we're good to go. So, I don't know. It was fun. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it, man. You guys have a great day or a great night. I'll see you tomorrow. I might live stream Autumn laying her eggs tomorrow morning. She's going to lay them tomorrow morning. I guarantee it. That's it. It's going to be over 20 eggs, fertile eggs. So I might put a camera on her lay box, record her laying each egg, and I'll narrate it. I'll check out. I'll be on the mic here, and we'll watch her lay her eggs live stream. That'd be a pretty cool idea. Screw it. I got nothing to do tomorrow anyway. So, all right, guys, be good. Cheers. Have a good night. Bye.